Hey everyone, Dr. Mark Supernaw here with Family Healing Chiropractic. This is your weekly webinar, and this one's going to be about sciatic nerve problems and disc issues. So this is a popular one that we've been getting asked a lot of questions recently. Sorry, I can't speak today. I'm going to speak really quickly, but I want you to understand something. When it comes to sciatic and nerve issues, sciatica, disc issues, neuropathy, really these are signs that your body is just not adapting and healing the way that it's supposed to or how it was designed to. And so I'm going to take you and walk you through this today and help you kind of understand a little bit more about how the body actually works. I love this one. So we start with sciatic and disc issues. The question everyone asks is can chiropractic help sciatica or disc problems? You first have to start to understand or reframe really what that looks like. Sciatica and disc problems are some of the most common and feared diagnoses that people have. People are told that your discs are bad, you have degeneration, you have DDD, degenerative disc disease, degenerative joint disease, DJD. You also start to talk about things like herniated disc, prolapsed discs. See, and the reality of these things is that we're told once that goes wrong or the disc goes bad, then you have a herniation. You need injections or you need surgery. And that's usually the answers that usually most people medically will come up with, because we've been taught that these things are injuries that happen because of one event. And you're going to start to learn a little bit more about this today and understand how the actual body goes through the adaptation process. Sorry, I can't speak today. If you look at the anatomy of this, and this is just a picture of the low back, a normal spine, you can see where the vertebrae are on top and below, and then the spinal cord sits down through the back part. There's like a hole where the nerve comes through, and then the middle of the bones there is the disc space, and that disc space is there. It's like gelatin. The discs are like gelatin, and basically God's perfect design, it's there to create spacing. It's there for movement. It's there for flexibility. It's there for stability. It's there for balance. It's there for so many different reasons. And so you can see on that top illustration right there, you can see how it shows that there's good spacing there. So what starts to happen is, and you can start to see it, and look at it here, the swollen discs mean that there's injury there, mean that there's stress there. And I'm going to dive into a little bit more of what that looks like. And then that will start to cause an impingement to the nerve system. So as grossly and anatomically maybe not perfect this is, but it's a good analogy for you understanding this. Think of it like a garden hose. Your spinal cord is like a garden hose carrying water to your garden. And if somebody comes along and interrupts the flow of that water through that garden hose, the garden can't grow. If it needs a perfect amount of water to that garden for it to be able to grow perfectly, that it has the most efficient growing patterns, if it has the right amount of water going to it, really understand that that's how the body works. The brain and spinal cord and the nerves want a perfect amount, not too much, not too little, of information or innate intelligence coming from mental impulses, coming from your brain, down through your spinal cord, out your nerves to all your organs, cells, and tissues. It's how the body works. And so when you disrupt that, it will start to affect the flow of that nerve supply, or in that case, the garden hose will affect the flow of water to the garden. And when you affect the flow of the nerve supply, the mental impulses from your brain to your body, to your organs, to your cells, to your tissues, what starts to happen is your body will start to break down or not work efficiently, or not adapt to its environment, or not coordinate things the way that it's supposed to. And so the reality is that discs in the body, they don't fail. Adaptation does. See, discs don't randomly just go bad. Like, so many people come through here and say, oh, well, I was lifting this and that's what blew my disc. Or I did this and I blew my disc. I got in a car accident and I blew my disc. Like, it's so much bigger than that. Discs are so much tougher than that. They don't just blow because of one thing, unless it's a massive accident where you're in a semi truck and you get hit by a train. Maybe something grossly can happen then. But the reality is the discs are so strong and built for adaptation and stress that it's usually not something that's a one-time event. Now, one-time event might set it off or set the symptoms off. But the reality is it's usually more than likely multiple events, multiple amounts of stress over a course of a period of time. See, they don't go bad. They respond to stress or the load or the pressure of load on your body on a repetitive pattern, or your posture, or the body's ability to be able to, or inability to be able to adapt to itself. When adaptation is poor, the body has to compensate. And compensation reaches its limits, then that's when the symptoms start to appear later on in the process. So the reality is that sciatica is not the problem. Disc changes aren't the cause of this. It's the result of that long-term stress and compensation. And so when you start to think about this, is that the body is constantly under stress, whether it's emotional stress, physical stress, chemical stress. All these different levels of stressors come in, and it's the body's ability to be able to adapt that stress. And different people adapt in different ways. And so I used this on my radio program this morning. I said, if we're standing on top of this building right here, it's a 1-story building, and two of us, if we weigh the same and we jump at the same time and we land the same way, one of our femurs might shatter and the other one might be perfectly fine. It's how well can your body adapt to stress? How resilient is it? How coordinated? How big is the ability for the body to be able to adapt along the way? Symptoms are just the body. And I love this part. Anytime I talk about symptoms on here, it's so funny. I get so many people just coming into the comments, and especially on TikTok, but also on Instagram and Facebook as well. But people just coming in here trying to be doctors and call me quack and everything like that. Is that they're like, oh no, symptoms aren't a warning flag. Symptoms are they try to tell me all these things about symptoms. I'm like, listen, symptoms are the body's basically warning signals. Once the symptom starts to happen, it means that the body is trying to tell you something or trying to tell itself something along the way. See, pain and numbness, tingling, burning, weakness, these are not mistakes. These are signals. These are the body's lack of compensation over a period of time starts to affect the nerves in a way that the body will start to express itself as symptoms. So these are not mistakes. These are signals. It's kind of like a dimmer switch. I have these lights on a dimmer switch in here so I can use it as an analogy during my class. But if I take a light and I put it on a dimmer switch, if I start dimming the lights and I dim it down to 50%, but it took me 20 years to get to 50% light, what starts to happen is that you think that we're still sitting in the same light after 20 years, but the reality is we're not. And then, but if I took you from 20 years ago to now and showed you 50% lighting, you'd be like, oh, right away, you would notice a difference. And see, the reality is it's the same way. A dimmer switch, what happens is as nerve functions altered, signals become distorted, and it's not shut off all at once, but it's slowly. And covering symptoms doesn't restore the function. See, this is where people have problems is that, I had a great conversation with a patient right over here yesterday about thyroid issues and statins for cholesterol drugs. And we talked about high blood pressure. And he's sitting there, he's talking about his wife, and she has this thyroid problem. And the thyroid issue, the numbers are off. So to go to the doctor, the numbers off. Sometimes the numbers are high, sometimes the numbers are low. So they're like, we're going to put you on thyroid medication. And he said, well, won't that fix the problem? I'm like, no, it's fixing the symptom. It's not fixing the actual cause of the problem. It's only hiding the symptom. The question is why is the body confused? And maybe it's not confused. Why is the body not adapting the way that we would want it to, right? Maybe it's adapting exactly how it's supposed to. And so instead of, I told him, instead of trying to control the TSH, the thyroid measuring chemicals that they look for in the blood, instead of trying to affect those things, what if we just looked at how do we support her body to be stronger and healthier? Make sure that we have proper nerve supply to the thyroid, make sure that our hormones are balanced through the nerve system, making sure that we're eating good foods, getting proper rest, proper sunlight, proper vitamin D, all the things that created our bodies to be able to function and heal. That's what we need to support. So covering symptoms doesn't restore function. Suppressing pain doesn't improve adaptation. Probably at best, it will cover those things up, but at worst, it's confusing the body and adds to it more issues. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you guys ever heard that terminology before. So the real question becomes, why is the nerve system no longer coordinating movement and the load properly? Why isn't the body able to adapt, especially when discs start to go bad? Why is it not adapting properly? Why isn't it able to coordinate these motions, these movements along the way? So what has your body been compensating for? Here, this is a chiropractic question, right? This is what I talked about. Old injuries, poor movement patterns, sitting and screens, stress, tension, years of adaptation without correction. See, the thing is, the body's incredibly smart, but until it runs out of options, it will do exactly what it's supposed to do. But when it runs out of options, sometimes it just has to say, okay, this is the best thing that I can do for itself. So when you see degeneration, you see disc herniations, DJD, all the things I said before, when you start to see these symptoms, these things start to happen, the body's just doing the best with what it has to work with. So instead of coming in and saying, oh, you know what? It's not my fault. My family had it. It's DNA. It's genetics. See, the thing is, I don't love when doctors try to tell my patients that it's a genetic issue or it's a DNA issue, because if you're told that you have diabetes because it's a generational thing, or it's a familial thing, or it's a genetic thing, then that person no longer has to or wants to work on what they should be working on to help support the body to be able to get the blood sugar back under alignment. Same thing when it comes to heart disease or cancers or diabetes or any of the problems, really, is like you should always be addressing, how do I support the body in coordinating and adapting itself. See, the thing is that when compensation ends, then pain starts to begin. This is where most people finally pay attention. It's finally when the symptom shows up, is finally when people start paying attention. And when the symptoms show up and then people start paying attention, they're like, their whole focus is, how do I get rid of the aches? How do I get rid of the pains? How do I get rid of the high blood pressure? How do I get rid of the high cholesterol? How do I get rid of the high or low thyroid issues, right? How do I get rid of the disc issues? And the real question you should be asking is, how do I support the body that God designed to allow it to adapt and coordinate its systems so that way it can heal actually from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. So here's where chiropractic fits in. It doesn't treat sciatic nerve problems, and it doesn't push discs back in. So we're not taking the bones and aligning them so that the discs start to push back in. What we're doing is we're refocusing the nerve system coordination. We're helping spinal movement and the adaptability of the spine and the nerve system so that the brain can, and man, this is something that's so huge. We all have this inborn innate intelligence that our bodies are constantly trying to adapt and coordinate to its environment. So I talked about this on my radio program this morning. It's like a plant. All living things, when God created them, all living things have this innate intelligence inside of it, this inborn intelligence that wants it to survive, live, and thrive, and adapts to stressors on the outside. So if you don't water a plant, what happens is the plant will start to dig its roots deeper. Why? Because it's trying to find water. It's trying to adapt and trying to survive. If you turn a plant away from the sunlight, what's it going to do? It's going to turn its leaves back towards the sun. Why? Because it's trying to adapt. It's trying to survive. It's trying to do the best thing it possibly can. And so really when it comes down to the body, see, chiropractic, what we do is we focus on releasing that innate intelligence, that inborn intelligence, and removing the stress so the body can adapt and so it can coordinate itself, reducing compensation patterns, allowing the body to reorganize and heal itself. So when an adaptation starts to improve, then the pressure decreases. And when coordination improves, symptoms start to change. See, when people come to my office, I don't heal people of cancers and heart disease and diabetes. I don't heal people from neck pain or back pain. I don't heal people from heart disease, diabetes. I don't heal people from depression, anxiety, but we see people that as you start to improve the function and the coordination and adaptation of the body, guess what? The body does what it's designed to do. Now, here's even what you should think about though, is that why wait until your body fully starts to break down or it starts to compensate and aches and pains start to set in? Why wait until that happens before you do that? Doesn't it make more sense? And this is what we built this office on 22 years ago, is that no, we want to help teach you how to do that before the symptoms, before the body starts to break down, before the discs go bad, before the sciatic nerve starts to show up. And we also want to make sure that the kids see the conversation I had with a couple yesterday, husband and wife, is I said, listen, I go, you should have been taught how to take care of your spine your whole life, but nobody's ever taught us this. Like there's chiropractors out there that have been teaching this for 100 years, maybe not 100 years, but the chiropractors have been teaching this stuff for 100 years. But the thing is that not unless you're lucky enough that your parents took you to a chiropractor when you were a kid, do you really understand or know this? Like, imagine if we never were taught how to brush our teeth or floss and we didn't do checkups at dentists. Like, how bad would our teeth be? Like, if we never brushed our teeth and we ate poor foods and all this kind of stuff and had all this stress, we would have a mouthful of sickness and disease and rotted teeth. But somebody came along and said, no, we need to start to take care of the hygiene of our mouth to allow our teeth to have a healthy, prosperous life, obviously, and hopefully survive our whole life. For some of us, it doesn't, right? Same thing with the spine. And we should be even more adamant about taking care of the spine and the nerve system. Why? Because you get one spine, one nerve system in your life. You can always get fake teeth. No, we don't want to, but you can always get fake teeth. But the reality is you get one spine in your life. And so if you take care of it from birth, and why people ask me this, why do we need to take care of it now? We didn't do it for thousands of years. Well, no, we're becoming more aware now of the health of the spine and the nerve system. And we have to, because our levels of stress have gone through the roof. And so we put more stress on our spine. We're not designed to sit all day long on computers and phones and look down constantly nonstop. We're not designed to handle all the stressors of all the chemicals that they're putting in our food and the vaccines that they're trying to shove down your throats and the medicines and the drugs and all the chemicals we're exposed to and cleaning supplies and all the clothes and all the stuff we have. And we're also not really designed to take on all the stress that it comes to when it comes to life and emotions. Like just turn on the internet right now, which you probably are on it. Hopefully this is more positive for you than some of the other stuff you're scrolling through. But what you see is that on the internet, what is it? It's all about trying to get eyes. And so they like to inflame people, not inform people anymore. The news is no longer informing. My pastor said this years ago, 10 years ago, maybe 15, is that the news is no longer there to inform you. It's there to inflame you. And the more that they make you mad about Bad Bunny halftime show, the more that they make you mad about Turning Point's halftime show, and they get us fighting, the more stress we have. So we have emotional, physical, chemical stress. And what happens is that creates more and more stress that our body has to deal with. And if the body's able to coordinate and adapt and it works well, it's able to handle this better. But when it starts to go out of its level of stress that it can't handle anymore, it has to do something about that. It has to adapt along the way. So what starts to happen is if you lose function or lose adaptability, this is how it works. You can see there on the left-hand side is 0% function. On the right-hand side is 100% function. What you're looking for is at 100% function, your body is working and designed and coordinated the way that it's supposed to. But what starts to happen is when you have emotional stress, chemical stress, physical stress, what starts to happen is the body will try to adapt as best as it possibly can. When it can no longer adapt to it, it has to do something to protect itself. And that's what in chiropractic we call a subluxation process, where the spine will start to move out of its normal alignment or shift out of its normal alignment because the amount of stress that's coming in has to do something with that stress. As it does that, now it disrupts how the brain's able to communicate down through the spinal cord nerve system, out the nerves to all the organs, cells, and tissues. So the body's not able to do what it's designed to do, how it's able to do it, how it's designed to do it. And so when you start to lose function, just like I said before, this is another way to say it. As you start to lose function, though, symptoms don't show up until there's a lack of compensation. That's what happens. At the end of compensation, symptoms show up. Typically, you lose about 40% function. That's finally when a symptom shows up. In our medical industrial complex, our healthcare system, I call it in quotations health, it shouldn't be called healthcare. It should be called a sick care system, because our sick care system, the medical industrial complex that's set up the way it is, the way that the insurance companies want to drive you and your family, the medical doctors and the pharmaceuticals, they want you to focus in on this 60% right here. They want you treating symptoms. They want you hiding symptoms. They want you taking drugs for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, thyroid, because that's part of the business. It's very methodical and it's very logical that you would say, oh, well, my blood pressure's high because they've told us this is bad. Well, what happens is let's lower that and we can take this pill and you can lower it. And that makes sense logically. The question that's not being asked, though, in that system is, why did that blood pressure go high? Why did that cancer form? Why is that sciatic nerve problem there? Why is the disc giving out? Why is the disc herniating? Why are these things happening? And when you start to address the cause of these things and start to remove the stress and allow the body to go through its healing process and adaptation process, that's when the body does what it's supposed to do. It's way smarter. God designed our bodies. It's way smarter than any man could ever come along and say, I'm going to manipulate the body in this way. Even when it comes to supplements too. Even when it comes to supplements and cold and hot and ice baths and saunas and all these biohack things and everything like that. These things, great. Go do them if you want to. But at the end of the day, what are you doing to support the body, to push it or to allow it, not push it, to allow it to function and adapt and coordinate at or near 100%? That's the whole goal. And so if you're out there listening to me today, again, I said the same thing on the radio, and I'm saying this to you guys right now that are listening. When you're having these problems, these symptoms, it's a lack of compensation or coordination of your body. And so what needs to happen is actually not a lack, it's a compensation for your body, but it's a lack of coordination and adaptability. So you need to start to address, where is this coming from? One of the best ways to do that is get your spine and nerve system checked up, not just for you, but this is really for kids too. Because anything that has a spine and nerve system, the better that it functions top to bottom, the better it can adapt to its environment. And we live in an environment right now that is massively stressful for many of us. And I will tell you, in the last 2 weeks, I've had so many people coming through my office doors that are hurting, that it's affecting their life, it's affecting their marriage, it's affecting their ability to be able to be a good parent, it's affecting their ability to be able to work and sleep. And you see the pain in these people. And I know you're probably out there, and some of you guys are like, that's never gonna be me. It's not gonna be me. The reality is that if you don't address that stress or the adaptability factor of your body to adapt to that stress, it will eventually become you over time, because the body just can't adapt if it has stress to the nerve system. So you guys have a great and blessed day. Hope this hits you guys, that you guys are starting to ask questions differently. Email me, DM me, text me, call our office. If you have more questions, I'd love to be able to help you guys out. Have a great and blessed day.